Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be talking about the Lightspeed bundles, but a common question that I get asked is, our players are always asking me, is it still worth farming these characters that have been released in the Lightspeed bundle? Like, do I still farm them if Capital Games is going to put them in a Lightspeed bundle? So we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit, and I don't know when the next round of Lightspeed bundles is coming, and I think that adds a level of, complexity to these questions, because you could potentially be starting something that could get a Lightspeed bundle in, a week, because we normally get some data, we get a data mine that kind of gives us a, indication that they're coming. We don't always know what they are, right away, but we get an indication, hey, there's Lightspeed bundles coming. So we're going to dive into this today. Like and subscribe, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let's give a massive shout out to the channel members for their continued support. Very much appreciate you guys. I promise to get back into live streaming, promise to get back into do roster reviews, because it's been a while. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, so I do appreciate your patience while I get back into the normal swing of things. So let's get to our intro, talk about the bundles. All right, yes. So Lightspeed bundles, is it still worth it to farm these guys? Now, I think this is a great question, but I feel it's worded very poorly, right? Because the short answer is yes. Like, everything they put in the Lightspeed bundles is worth farming at some point. It's still worth going after it. Like, it was all good stuff. I don't think they've released a single bundle that I would say was a miss. The better question, you have to ask yourself a follow-up question with that. If I could put it in front of you today, right? If you don't have, like, and I just have a couple of the bundles up here, but if I put these bundles in front of you today, would you buy it, right? Like, if I could give you Rey, if I gave you the Lightspeed bundle for Rey, will you buy it? If the answer is no, if you're like, no, I wouldn't buy it, then, like, duh, it's worth farming then, because you're not going to go buy the bundle. If your answer is yes, I would buy it, then for the time being, the answer would be probably no, not worth farming at the moment. But there's follow-up questions to ask, and there's more to discover than just simple yes, no, right? Because there's a lot of other factors than just, would you buy it or not? Because for those of you who say no, all right, well, I got some other questions for you. And for those of you who would say yes, I also have additional questions for you, right? So the first one really is, when are you planning to do this? The when is very important. I think sometimes we often look at this and we're like, oh, well, I'm like, when do you want to farm it? Is this your next thing? Are you looking 2 farms down the road? Are you thinking 5 down the road? Like, when are you planning to do this, right? So that's the first question, is when. But then, what do you have left? What else could you be farming at this time? So if you're looking at your Galactic Legends, for example, and you don't have Rey, you don't have Kylo, and you don't have Lord Vader or Kenobi, and, you don't have Leia, right? Like, you're missing a bunch of them. Well, that could change your answer on, yeah, it may still be worth farming Rey and Kylo, but not before some of those other Galactic Legends, right? Yeah, you know what? It may be worth farming General Skywalker, but not over someone like Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, or, even Bo-Katan Mandalore for those bonus zones, right? That what else could you be farming outside of that character is a very big question to ask. Because when you just sit there and you blindly ask me, is it worth farming Kylo? Yes, it is. But what are you choosing to farm Kylo over is a bigger part of the equation, right? What else could you be farming, right? So what do you have left? Because to be fair, they're not selling Galactic Legend bundles yet for characters like Jabba, for characters like Leia, right? They have not been released at the time of recording. So you kind of want to think through, hey, all right, they're not selling those. Like, what other value do certain things have at the current time? So something like I said, Cal, Bo, Jar Jar, Grand Inquisitor, they have significantly more value to players than General Skywalker does right now. If we're just being completely honest, if an account doesn't have General Skywalker, they're also missing Lord Vader. But to a lot of guilds, that's not as big of a deal as missing Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, missing Grand Inquisitor, right? Because there's Reva shards out the door. There's, potentially getting into the Zepho bonus zone. Bo-Katan Mandalore, getting into the Mandalore bonus zone is a very big deal. A lot of good rewards there. And then with Jar Jar, with the new raid coming, again, like another example of you're worth a lot more to somebody with those kind of things. So think of the value of what you're asking now. The value of Rey and Kylo has absolutely dropped because of the bundles. Regardless of if you would purchase them or not, you cannot deny that their value in the game has dropped because there's more of them, right? There's a greater supply of those characters in the game. It is, it's think a classic supply and demand. The more of something there is, right? The more supply there is, and the less demand, right? The lower the price is. So they drop those prices saying, you know what? Like, there's not a high demand for these Galactic Legends right now. So we're going to, to make some money, we're going to increase the supply and we're going to drop the price. We're going to drop the price, and that way we can, cash out, right? So that's what they did with these things, is they were trying to say, hey, demand has dropped off. We're going to drop the price and cash out while we can. So ask yourself what the value of those things are now and what you have left, right? And for some of you, like if you're saying I would buy every single pack and all you have left is Rey and Kylo, just for example, if those are the two GLs you haven't farmed yet and you're like, I would farm one of them. I mean, you could just stick to it and say, you know what? I'm going to go to the bottom of my roster and start farming up all the characters that I don't have yet, right? That maybe I'm going to go for Stormtrooper Han and Legray and, Shore Trooper and Saw Gerrera. Like, those are the characters that I'm going to invest my resources into. Or you could go in and say, you know what? I am going to build the Resistance. That I like this faction more than I like the First Order. I'm going to build the Resistance, and I'm just going to go with the fact that by the time I'm done, the Lightspeed bundle will not yet be released, and so I will have made a better decision that I have this stuff. Yes, I spent time doing it, but I still got, use out of it. Because the big thing to think about here is, let's say in 5 months, in November, just for the sake of argument, that the Lightspeed bundles come back, right? So if you get Rey in 3 months, which for some people that could make sense, right? You think 3 months, you get Rey because you've got gear saved up or whatever. I mean, you had all those Resistance characters in your account for that period of time, that if you build the Resistance heroes in Zori and you're getting use out of that squad today, that is 5 months that you were earning resources with them, 5 months that you were able to use those things. So you did get a return in some way, shape, or form there. So, like, if those are the last two things, then, yeah, you pick one and you move on with your life. And I think this kind of goes to what, there's always going to be a risk that we don't know what the next Lightspeed bundles are. They don't give us a blueprint to say this is our, we thought we had it figured out, and we do not. But we don't know what bundles are next. So there's always a risk. So don't think that, because there could be one in the future, I'm not going to farm something. Otherwise, just farm Jar Jar. Right? If you want the simple solution, farm Jar Jar. He won't be in a Lightspeed bundle for years. You could go farm Bo-Katan Mandalore. She won't be in one for years. Like, that's the easy answers, but it's not the easy farming choices, right? So, again, they are worth it. It just depends on what else you have, and I also think it's what is the value that they have to you, right? So think of the value now to you. Because that's the other side of this, is that to an account at 3 million galactic power, the value of Jar Jar, right, and what you put into getting him compared to, say, maybe the value of Supreme Leader Kylo Ren are going to be two very different things. Because I'd say Kylo probably has a bit more value at the lower end than he does at the higher end. Like, at the higher end of the game, if you're missing Jar Jar or you're missing Supreme Leader Kylo Ren and you're 10 million GP, I'd go get Jar Jar. Because most guilds will not care if you're missing, not that they won't care that you're missing Kylo, but they'd much rather look at you and see Jar Jar than Kylo, right? So, again, guys, I think that kind of wraps up how I feel about these bundles, and is it still worth farming, right? Like, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but I do think that you need to ask the rest of those questions of yourself, right? Because, like I said, your short answer is yes. Like, a Galactic Legend's a Galactic Legend. General Skywalker, Starkiller, they're all very good things. So, there's these other things that you need to ask yourself. And I feel like sometimes we don't do this. You don't take that next step to ask the question. And that's why when I do roster reviews, if you're still watching, a little bit of information on how roster reviews and the ones that are the most successful, in my opinion. When I do roster reviews, I ask, hey, what did you just finish up? What are you doing right now? And then what's your plan afterwards? That's kind of like the 3 pieces of information that I want. if you told me that you just finished Executor, okay, I can see what's in your account already and that the most recent thing you did was Executor. So if I see a bunch of other Galactic Legends, you just finished Executor, then I have a better sense of bearings of, okay, you're thinking of going for Jabba, does that make sense? Or you're thinking of going for Jedi Master Kenobi, does that make sense? And then what do you want to do after him? And that way I can kind of figure out, hey, you know what? Like, this is going to work. For example, if I was to do one for myself, right? All right, Phil. So I'm wrapping up Mandalorians, going for Bo-Katan Mandalore, and then I'm going for Jar Jar, right? I want to get Jar Jar. So I'm going to get Bo-Katan Mandalore, and I'm going to get Jar Jar. That's kind of what I'm doing, right? When I'm going to wrap up. And then I'd like to go for Master Qui-Gon and Padawan Obi-Wan for the Queen Amidala team, while also thinking about other raid characters. And I'd look at this and say, hey, that's great. I think that's a really good idea. One character I'd maybe add in there would potentially be, you know, looking at some stuff like, hey, your Barriss, you know, with the Keller and Beck Jedi team in the fray, you may want to think about getting a character like Barriss, potentially maybe even Luminara, right? Kind of look at some of these characters and build some teams there. So again, I'm using myself as the example there just to say that I try to look into all the little things that you could do to improve your account, and that this is kind of where I would look at, right? So hopefully that gives you guys a baseline. Hopefully that helps you. Let me know your thoughts down below. Again, I love all of you. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. And just to reiterate, I do not know when the next bundles are coming. Cheers, my friends.